Hello there and welcome to the FOX6 Sports Blitz after a Packers 30-14 win over the Titans. I'm Brandon Cruz, Lily Zhao alongside here in the FOX6 studio, and Tim Van Born is live in Tennessee where the Packers enjoyed their second win of the season. Let's look at tonight's starting lineup. Nashville hot on the menu for the Packers with a side of revenge. Touchdown Tommy makes us say what. It's a celebration for the comeback crew, and of course we have our high school hotshot.
Oh, my goodness. That was super. I mean, they won the game for us. If we want to say that, them guys did great. Everybody deserves a game ball. I'll pay how much money out of my pocket to everybody. They keep doing that. I add to their salaries. Oh, my goodness.
Well, what a day for Malik Willis as he leads the Packers to a win over the team that traded him away to Green Bay, and the Packers are very happy that transition was able to happen for them. And Tim, let's check in with you. First of all, we all knew that Malik Willis was looking forward to this game, but it also looked like Matt LaFleur wanted him to do well in this game because he kind of opened up the playbook and allowed him to do a lot more than what we saw in his first start against the Colts.
Which certainly surprised the Titans. They were uptight on that box, on that line in the first quarter. Boom, up over the top 30 yards. Boom, up over the top 30 yards. And suddenly, what kind of game are we going to be in? You know, I was sitting near Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, in the press box. I don't, you know, he's not a smug guy, but my goodness, the acquisitions of Malik Willis and even Braden Narveson, two Titans cast-offs, and then you pummeled the Titans today. What a script.
It really was. And right away, you kind of got the feeling that Willis was trying to do more. And, you know, you saw a number of passes go for 30 yards or even more. I mean, you know, they didn't convert a whole lot of third downs, but when they did, it seemed to be him finding the right guy and a lot of yards after that.
Absolutely, and throwing the ball with some authority. Second straight game. Very efficient passing for Malik Willis. He has one of the best passer ratings in the NFL. That's correct. Malik Willis, after 3 weeks, has one of the best passer ratings in the NFL. And the Packers have ridden this no-mistake type offense to success now in the last couple of games.
And Tim, let's talk about the run game. I think Jeffrey Simmons was the one over the week that said they're not going to run on us, and the Packers certainly ran on the Tennessee Titans, and Malik Willis was a big part of that run game. Emmanuel Wilson also with a big day as well, Tim.
Sure, and in the first part of the game, those only yards were outside, right? You couldn't get up against those big middle stuffers for the Tennessee Titans. As the game went along, as the heat started to wear on guys, as the scoreboard started to tilt to the Packers, then you got some yards in between the tackles. So the Packers kept banging away, banging away, banging away. And we're going to talk about Willis tonight. We're going to talk about the defense tonight. We're going to talk pass rush tonight. But that offensive line, second straight week, dominating a game.
They certainly did. And just going off of that, though, Tim, when you look at this offense and what Matt LaFleur has been able to do, getting Malik Willis involved in and just kind of game scripting it so well for him to make him in a position to succeed, how impressive is what Matt LaFleur has been able to do with the game plan to ensure this team is now 2-1?
I don't think you can say enough about it. Again, this is what, a month or so that they've been working on this with Malik Willis, and you look at teams that have had quarterbacks through training camp and their offense can't go anywhere. For the Packers to do this, certainly the depth on offense is showing up, but you have to commend the coaching staff as well for getting the quarterback so comfortable and, again, not making mistakes. We've said it time and time again. You beat yourself in the NFL as often as you win games in the NFL, and the Packers have not been beating themselves in the last 2 games.
Yeah, Tim, no turnovers for the Packers, yet they create 3 turnovers on the other side. And yeah, there's a late interception there to kind of seal things, but still, they were key moments there, and it shows how aggressive this defense really is so far this season.
You said it, Brandon, key moments. And yes, the Packers had a lot going for themselves in this game, but 2 very timely plays. The Jair Alexander interception, pick 6, his first pick 6 in the NFL. And then that Kingsley Enagbare sack, and Lucas Van Ness got on it for the turnover. Both of those were kind of turning point plays at the time they occurred in the flow of the game, swinging things back toward the Packers or giving the Packers some cushion.
Well, let's listen to Xavier McKinney talking about the turnovers from this team.
Me, I'm just being present, man, being where my feet are. Man, my coaches believe in me, my teammates believe in me, and it's been special, man. So I'm gonna keep, doing what I do, going out there and playing hard for them, and doing everything that I can to, prove them right.
And Xavier McKinney certainly has proved everybody right, in terms of just being this amazing offseason acquisition for the Packers and their defense. But, Tim, is this kind of what we expected to see, right, from this defense? Again, it was kind of a big unknown under kind of what this unit would look like under Jeff Hafley. But in this third week, we kind of saw it all come to fruition.
This was the type of game you'd love to see out of the defense. Admittedly, the Titans are a little loose with the football and not terribly focused offensively, but this is what you wanted to see after two conservative defensive game plans. Try to hem in those running quarterbacks, try not to give up the big play. Packers had so-so success against those offenses in the first couple of weeks. Today against the Titans, they gave up a couple of plays, but in general, you'd have to say the defense made the key plays, the big ones, of course, being those takeaways, but trying to bracket those big plays in general and keep the Titans in front of them.
And, Tim, we talked about, is there a concern, I would say, week 3 in terms of the number of penalties that this team is racking up? Luckily, it didn't take away any scoring plays from the Packers this time around, but are the penalties and the amount of them coming, especially on the offensive line, a concern, or is that something they'll just clean up in week 4 and beyond?
I think it is a concern. We've heard as much country music here this weekend in Nashville as we've seen flags on Rasheed Walker. They go on and they go on, Lily and Brendan. But Walker has said some of it's the interpretation of the rules this year, and there may be some adjusting going on by the players. He had a rough day today. Penalties did plague the Packers today. Matt LaFleur said after the game, an awful lot to clean up. That's what he was getting at. Clean up. That's coaching stuff. But he was definitely very happy in the overall.
Yeah, and one of the things he was just ecstatic about was the play of his defensive line. I mean, it was a feeding frenzy by the end of this game with how often they were able to get to Will Levis and really, all the sacks, but they disrupted his play so many different times. It was just incredible. It seemed every time he took a snap, he was under pressure.
Absolutely. Packers were coming in waves. I don't know what exact play you're showing right now, but so many times, multiple players after Levis, putting him on his back foot if he could even get rid of the ball, or going down as one of those 8 sacks. That's one of the highest sack totals in Packer NFL franchise history. A big game, and I don't remember seeing a more dominant one-man move than that Kingsley Enagbare stack, which forced the Lucas Van Ness fumble recovery. That's going back to Reggie White with those swim moves and just knocking guys out of the way. Not saying Enagbare can do that on a regular basis. He hasn't, but boy, he did it on one occasion today.
Yeah, they exploited that offensive line, especially on the right side in this one. We talk about the concern maybe with the penalties. What about at kicker? Braden Arvison missing another one today. It feels like we're in the same position watching the kicking game as we have been in previous seasons, because you're just not sure it's going to go through the uprights.
Yeah, and statistically, it's not a miss because the play was taken back by penalty, but I agree with you, watching the game, that is a miss. However, in the locker room afterwards, sentiment that because the penalty, that's why Narveson had to adjust the kick. He would have been blocked if he had gone down the middle, and that he was actually trying to just miss the player that was in the way who had committed the penalty. So maybe a bit of an asterisk on today's miss, which isn't even officially a miss. But I agree with you, Brandon. You can't go 3 for 4 every game. That's not going to be what the Packers are counting on. As much as they clearly like Braden Narveson, his personality, his approach to things, you have to deliver on a consistent basis.
You certainly do, and we'll see kind of what happens next week when the Vikings roll into Lambeau Field. But, Tim, when you're looking again at that matchup in Week 4 against the 3-0 Sam Darnold Vikings, what is your analysis on what the quarterback situation will look like? Of course, Malik Willis now 2-0 as a starter, but Jordan Love warmed up today, looked good, but of course did a lot of that because he wasn't playing. What's your inkling for next week at that position?
My inkling would be Love starts the game, and suddenly you have a whole lot more faith in Malik Willis if you have to go with him in reserve, even though he won't have had the first-team reps through the week. I assume it'll be Love with all the first-team reps this week, getting ready, and he will play against Minnesota. That's the sense I would have. And, of course, there's a quarterback issue on the other side. Sam Darnold's health is now called into question after he went down today. So a lot of focus on the quarterbacks in this upcoming week.
And there'll be focus on Aaron Jones making his return to Lambeau Field in that purple and gold from the Vikings. It'll be strange to see after a show. Well, we're just getting started here on the FOX 6 Sports Blitz. Coming up, we have a Say What, and, of course, a lot of celebrating for the Brewers. More so than just earlier in the week. We'll explain when we get back.
Do I vote? I don't even know if I vote for her.
You really want to ask that question out of the gate?
I just like getting people's attention with something.
My significant other think he's sexy, so.
Wow. That was interesting. Was that Taylor Swift? head of hair? Brandon Cruz or Tim Van Voren?
Oh, Tim Van Voren, of course.
Oh, of course. Brandon, how do you feel about that answer from 8-year-old Tommy Fitzgerald?
I mean, when you give an 8-year-old a mic, this is what happens out there in the Friday night high school blitz. But Tommy Fitzgerald is fantastic, and I love that he's asking all those hard-hitting questions.
Hard-hitting questions, and yes, our TVV has a nice head of hair. So good job, Tommy. Great question there. Great insight as well. Of course, Tim live for us in Nashville, Tennessee after Packers' big win. But let's switch gears to the Brewers, because this was a big week in many ways. But especially tonight, Brandon, when you look at this team down 8-0, I think a lot of people probably wrote them off as, oh, they're going to get swept 4 games in a row that they lose, but they come back and they do it with 2 outs in the 8th. How are they able to get it done?
Yeah, it's one of those things where we've seen with this team, their ability to not give up. I mean, we haven't seen them come back from an 8-run deficit until this game this year, but what they don't do is they don't give it bats away normally. And all these runs that came in the 8th, they scored 4 times. Almost all of them were 2-out, 2-strike hits. And so every batter is up there fighting for every pitch. It's not giving anything away. And that is what this team has been defined by all season long. And it's why they won their division handily. And it's why they're still technically in the mix to try to get one of the top 2 records in the National League. But I think what they were able to do today really changed the tone heading into this final week of the season.
And speaking of the tone, though, Tim, did they need a win like this? Because when you were talking about, these 3 games they lose after clinching the NL Central, they look kind of listless. The bats were not working. And all of a sudden you're down 8-0. And the way that they come back, their biggest comeback win in 20 years, did they need a win like this in their final week of baseball in the regular season?
No, they needed a win, Lily. I mean, they were hanging over from the Wednesday night party, which was sort of understood, but then suddenly it stretches and you just thought, oh, are they finally going to go on a 4-game losing streak? So they needed a win of some sort. Something like this could be a motivator and a stepping stone going forward to say, well, we can come back. We're never too far down if they're in a situation that doesn't look promising in the postseason. But they get there, they stop that losing streak. That alone, to me, was needed.
It certainly was, and Brandon, we'll see if they do kind of face each other in the postseason as well. But another big moment this week, the Brewers, of course, clinched the NL Central Division on September 18th, the first team in the majors to do so. Of course, you guys watched that game. The Cubs had to lose for the Brewers to win, but then they come back and beat the Phillies as well. What does that say about this Pat Murphy-led team, Brandon, that in his first year as manager, they're the first team to clinch the division by double digits, too?
Well, they have his personality. They're a scrappy group. They're not going to be pushed around, and they have a lot of fun. They earned this party. They earned this chance to celebrate in their own clubhouse. And yeah, it was nice for them that they got the win, even though they had clinched earlier in the day, as you mentioned, with the Cubs loss. But for them to be able to do this, it was so special for this group because they're young. These guys are young, and not everybody has tasted it. But then you look at guys like Sal Frelick or Bryce Durang, 2 seasons in the big leagues, 2 celebrations for winning their division. It says a lot about how young this group is, but how together they are. And it's always fun to see this. And to me, the moment of the night was when Euchre was the one. They held the celebration off until Bob Uecker made it all the way down from the press box from calling the game on radio to celebrate with this team. And that was Pat Murphy making sure everybody held off until Bob Uecker was in there, because he's as much a part of this team as anybody else in that clubhouse.
And it's just amazing what this team has been able to do this season. You're celebrating a 90-year-old Bob Uecker and also a 20-year-old Jack Centurio, who, as we know, can't legally drink yet. So the Brewers had a little baby card out there with some non-alcoholic drinks, so he can also partake in this as well. But let's hear from the guys after clinching the division.
Yeah, plus 850 to start the season. Brewers team, we've been doing this for years, and it's just crazy that people haven't picked up on it yet.
Nobody thought that, we as players, we see the projections. We see where they think the Brewers are going to be at the end of the year, and here we are. We're close to 90 wins here, and we still got a couple weeks to go or a week and a half, and we still got a lot to play for here coming down the end. And yeah, it seems like the same old story every year, but here we are, celebrating with about a couple weeks to go in the regular season, and this time it eventually one of these years, and it feels like this year we're gonna get over that hump.
And Tim, just kind of your thoughts on how far can this team go in the postseason? We've talked about the 2018 team; they get all the way to the NLCS, and all of a sudden we haven't seen that since then. So, in your opinion, how far can this team go?
I don't think you can cross them off at this point. We just heard Brandon Woodruff there. Of course, a year ago, everything looked good, and then the Woodruff industry came down and everything changes. Things go quickly in Major League Baseball postseasons. The Brewers should not be discounted. They're not they're unlikely at least to get one of those top 2 seeds. They're going to have to win their way. Why not?
Why not? And Brandon, when you're looking at the last week of Brewers baseball, what do you want to see from this team?
I think they need to just keep playing and trying to get one of those top 2 seeds, but stay healthy, get your pitching in order, so if you are playing in the wild card break or in the wild card round, you have your pitching set up exactly how you want it. Well, that's enough for the Brewers talk right now as they go into their final week. Coming up, our high school hotshot. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. He's always enjoyed tinkering with Legos and designing robotics, and now a passion instilled by his grandfather has him continuing a legacy of preservation. Here's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
My name is Noah Roberts. I'm a sophomore at Dodgeland High School, and I'm on the robotics team. This past year, we had a team of 3. So we designed the robot, we build the robot, test it, program it. We go to competitions. This past year, we only had 1 competition. The year before that, we made it to state. I knew I wanted to do robotics just because I've loved building things for a very long time. I mainly like building vehicles with Lego. I still enjoy doing all that mechanical stuff. I've just moved up a lot in size to tractors. My grandpa lived on a farm and he loved working on tractors. He got me interested in restoring the tractors until he passed away in 2016. But then I continued his legacy and kept restoring tractors. On the farm, my grandpa used to have a Farmall M. That was his favorite tractor on the farm, so I knew I wanted to restore a Farmall M. The average person would walk in that barn where I got it and just say it was a piece of junk. The tires were very dry rotted, the front grille was beaten up a little bit, and the hood was in not very good condition. The tractor was no longer red, it was brown. We tore it down to the bare bones, so it was just the frame, transmission, and the engine. My mom found the Chevron Tractor Restoration Competition, and I became a finalist and was the youngest finalist they've ever had in that competition. I was not in the top 3, but I did get this belt buckle. At first, when I knew I wanted to restore a tractor, well, I thought I'd only restore 1 and then be done. With how much I enjoyed it, I knew I wanted to keep on restoring tractors. My name is Noah Roberts. I'm a sophomore at Dodgeland High School, and I restored a 1950 Farmall M tractor. And I'm this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
And get this, Noah finished restoring another tractor. He has made it to the finals for the Chevron Tractor Restoration Competition again. And from there, he'll give a presentation on his project to a panel of judges at the end of October in Indianapolis. So good luck, Noah, and we will be right back.
And we're back here on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. Let's go back out to Nashville one last time. Tim, the Vikings coming into town. Aaron Jones, what is this week going to be like with the return of him to Lambeau Field?
One of the most popular Packers in recent memory and still very productive. So Jones is hot, the Packers are hot, the 2 coaches know each other well, and they're pushing the right buttons so far this year too.
All right, should be a fun game. For Tim Van Born, Lily Zhao, I'm Brandon Cruz. Have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday night.